Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Caroline Slater.
And I'm her brother Sean.
And this week we are discussing Minute 42. It begins with Peter talking with Doc Ock, and ends a minute later with Peter and Miles arriving in the cafeteria.
What did you title this minute?
Fight time!
Yes, it's time to get some action on.
Fight.
Some real death-defying action.
That we actually don't see that much of.
What? It's like the big chase.
Well, yeah, but like of the actual, we'll get to that.
Oh,
Let's start
I see
at the we'll start at the beginning of the minute, and then we'll get into what I was just.
Yeah.
So why don't you start off? What's your first note?
Yeah. So the first thing I like is Peter asks, "Oh, so can I assume that your friends call you Doc Ock?" And I love the like switch up here where it's like, "Oh, actually, my friends call me Liv." It's like, oh, okay, that's nice.
That's
like, it
normal.
Makes sense. Nice normal name. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, my enemies call me Doc Ock."
I'm like, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah, but it was a great like that. Like I love her putting on her goggles. We saw that at the end of the last minute,
Mm-hmm.
and then she chokes Peter and does her thing, putting on her gloves and being generally evil and woofty and whatnot. I want to talk about her arms real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So her robot arms here are very different from the traditional Dr. Octopus arms.
Yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Last episode, but
and I really want to get more into it here now that we see them in action. It's this very like organic-y kind of synthetic technology that she's using here instead of the more traditional like what you think of robot arms that Doc Ock is more normally pictured as. But I think these do a lot. These are a lot more menacing and cooler, and actually look like octopus arms. Like it makes her namesake much more. Makes sense.
They're super, and they look like the machine arms always look like something you could like cut off easily. These look like is something gonna like spew at me if I cut that.
Yeah, like yeah, they're a little creepy. Just they feel otherworldly more than the normal ones do, and I it's like they're a lot nicer. You can do a lot more. I think the way they move and work is a lot more intense and just feels cooler than some of the more just like robot-y legs.
They almost move more like octopus tentacles, or like actual tentacles in a way.
Yeah.
They kind of like do that sort of flow thing that happens in water.
Yeah.
Where most of the other tentacles are like clearly robotic.
And it's neat how her suit is also like partially made out of the same looking material that the arms are.
Oh yeah.
I do also kind of love the fact that they just obviously break all laws of like physics in that like that those really really long arms were able to somehow like condense down into something that wasn't even visible on her back.
Right?
As she was wearing her lab coat.
We don't question it. In this universe, they have the technology to do that.
Yeah.
Apparently. I love Peter tells Miles to go, that he can handle it.
Yeah.
And I never noticed this before, but you can actually hear Liv. I'm just going to call her Liv, even though we're not friends. I'm calling her Liv. You can hear Liv say, "Who are you talking to?"
Yeah.
Which is like, I never noticed that before, but it's a fun little, oh hey, she doesn't see Miles.
Yeah, she doesn't see Miles with the floating computer, and then is like, it totally ignores the fact that Peter shoots a web over at the door and the door opens. Like,
right? Like,
yeah, that kind of ties in. I love all of her banter in this minute.
She has amazing banter.
It reminded me of like an old bickering couple. Because she's just like Peter's like, "I got it." She's like, "Oh, you got it, Peter? Huh?" And just like as she's smashing him through through the wall. Like, she's like, "Oh, you're chatty."
And, their bickering back and forth really made me think of like old comic books in a way, and how people would throw like sayings to each other.
Yeah.
It was great. It was like, it's like, oh, someone who like matches Peter's wit. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just the way she says it is kind of that like sort of flirtatious, sort of like
taunting.
I'm gonna really, really hurt you when I get my hands on you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's great. And speaking of, Peter letting Miles out of the room, it's a little concerning that the hand scanner is able to just open with
a web, right?
With the web, yeah.
I want to know how that worked.
Why is it actually not a hand scanner? Maybe it's just like a big button, and it's just like, oh, just push here.
Yeah,
and it has a hand to let you know that to push the whole thing. And the web just triggered it, or the web, maybe he used special warm web that feels like hand.
Oh, I don't like the way you said that.
Feels like is warm, and maybe it's like more of a temperature sensing pad. I don't know. It's a little disconcerting that their security isn't that good.
It's all shit. Well, all of the money had to go with the collider, so they had to cut back somewhere. So they just
and her robotic arms.
And the robotic arms. So they just, that's probably it. Like, it's just a giant button, so she could also use the robotic arms.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is. I love how, like, when Miles is running and Liv shoots one of the arms at Peter, he uses the yoga ball to deflect it.
Yeah.
Which was really funny to me.
It's like, oh, gotta catch this.
Like, wow. But then he almost hits Miles.
Yeah. That would have been quite the like
how awkward
ending to the whole chase. Is like it accidentally catches the computer and just destroys the computer.
And you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, the whole like the way that they have him, like Miles just running around, like running away, and like the way they keep Peter and Liv to like with him is just like Peter constantly gets like smashed against the wall. He's like, "Don't worry, I got this. Doing okay."
Okay, this is a little bit bad.
Yeah.
Well, and the one thing I also love about this is that they really do. This kind of refers to my comment at the beginning of this minute. They really keep the focus on Miles. Like, we see snippets of the fight, but we really don't see that much of it. And I realized that when I was watching it, I'm like, we're really not seeing exactly what's happening in these rooms. We're seeing bits and pieces, but not like the actual fight itself, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, it's nice, and like it sort of gives it almost makes it more suspenseful.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh, Peter comes flying through one wall and then across the hallway and into the other wall and just disappears again. And then you see Liv dashing across the hallway as well.
Yeah, it really, and like, I feel like it was smart to keep the focus on Miles too. Because, well, first off, it's his story. It's being told through his eyes. And secondly, it's like, you can feel his tension of the fight, because we're tense, because we don't know what's going on. He doesn't see what's happening, so we don't know if, like, is Peter winning, is he losing, is he getting any hits at all, or is he just getting thrown at walls?
Yeah. And then at one point Peter's just like, well, good thing we don't need the monitor.
Well,
and just grabs it and just tosses
he comes back in and he's like, okay, good news, we don't need the monitor, and just throws it. Which is so funny to me.
Yeah.
But right before that, I do want to talk about it. Miles runs into a certain blonde scientist.
Yes.
Hi, Wanda.
Yeah.
Or Wanda. What did she decide her name on again?
She settled
on Wanda. That was it. No, she settled on Wanda.
That's right.
That was it. She did Wanda, and then she's like, it's Wanda. No G. You're stupid. That's right.
Yeah, you're right. It's still labeled as Wanda in the script.
It's still labeled as Wanda in the script? That's amazing.
I mean, that's what they kind of call her. Like, all the animators call her Wanda, because that was what her, like, model name was.
Okay, but, like, I kind of love that name. Like, Wanda's... No offense to any Wandas out there, but, like, Basic name. Gwanda's an awesome name.
Yeah. He runs into Gwanda, and neither of them, well, he doesn't recognize her at all.
He's a little preoccupied.
Yeah. and she just looks really confused as to what he's doing there.
What just happened here?
Yeah. And, like, one of the things I want to know is, like, how did she get there? And, like, what is she doing there?
I'm pretty sure she's there for a very similar reason that they're there. To get information. She just tend to do a more sneaky tactic, so I'm guessing...
Yeah, I guess, like, how does she know to get there?
She's a smart kid.
That's true. That's true. But how did she track that down, I guess? There was one theory I saw that this is this universe's Wanda.
Oh.
And she's just totally different from the one in the... totally different from the one in the woods. I don't buy it, but...
I mean, I guess I could see how someone does it, because we don't really see, like, the shaved half of her head.
Yeah, but she does have the same piercing.
She does have the same piercing.
Yeah, and it just complicates it even more than as to why Gwen shows up later. Like, right, that would be really confusing if both of, like, her and her doppelganger ran into each other and was like, hey.
What's up?
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to infer that she somehow was able to figure out information through her own work.
Yeah.
She probably figured out something, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, from the physics class she met Miles in.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were watching...
the Collider.
She was watching about the parallel universes, the Collider, so she's like, you know what? I need to look more into that scientist.
That makes a lot more sense.
Like, I just realized that. Like, maybe she picked up something from there, and it's like, okay, I might get answers there.
Yeah, and so she just goes to there, and then it just takes her a while to get here, maybe.
Well, yeah, probably. Because, I mean...
I guess, again, not that long of a time.
It really wasn't, if we think about it.
Yeah.
Well, because she probably was also figuring out a more stealthy plan of, like, okay, what do I have to do? Where do I have to go? Like,
I need a lab coat.
Well, I was going to say, like, Peter's and Miles' idea was more of just sneak in and go from
breaking
there.
and entering, and she was like, okay, I'll just get a lab coat.
Gwen's is probably more like, okay, I need to figure out where I'm going so I look like I know I belong there. I need to figure out the layout, where the access points are. Like, she probably did more research, too. So she... Yeah.
Yeah. Well, her dad is a captain, after all.
Yeah.
So he probably taught her a thing or two about detective work.
Oh, yeah. She's probably even just been exposed to it.
Yeah.
With her dad being a captain. I don't have much else. The last thing I really want to mention is two things. One is Liv's line of, you didn't tell me you had an invisible friend, which for some reason just cracks me up.
It's more of that, like, flirty, threatening banter that she's been doing.
Yeah. That's probably
she also sounds like an auntie in that or something, like, you didn't tell me you had a little friend.
And with the beehive hair that she's got, she kind of looks like an aunt. A deadly aunt, but an aunt nonetheless.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I have is the view that we see, like from Miles' point of view, is when he's sliding under Liv.
Yeah, it's a cool really view. Cool action bit.
Mm-hmm. It's such a cool view.
And then the one thing that kind of confuses me is, so Peter grabs him by the thing, and then they close the door on her, and then they have enough time to walk into the cafeteria and get bagels, and she's not immediately behind them. Like, I think they would be able, she should be able to open up the door relatively simple. Like, doors aren't that hard. Just break through it. You've been doing that all day.
I mean, yeah.
And yeah, you would think getting through that door would be pretty simple for her. How far behind is she really?
Right?
Unless maybe there was an extra turn, like a couple turns in there.
Maybe they went to a different floor.
Yeah, and she's just trying to find them.
Yeah, like now it's sort of a search. That's what I think it might be. They're able to turn and get far enough lost into different tunnels and stuff that tunnels isn't the right word. Different hallways.
Always.
And stuff that they were able to lose her long enough.
And then we enter the cafe, and the minute ends. Mm-hmm. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
That is all I wanted to touch on in this minute.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us at the beginning of this week. Tune in on Wednesday when we talk about minute 53.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.